So one of my main quests here has always been what's the most light I can get for the smallest amount of input. And this was a game I mainly used to play with little puny LEDs, but nowadays the game has changed with power LEDs. So the battle right now for me is a question of what is really the practical way to go if you're trying to make a portable light. And for me, I've got flashlights out the wahoo, but one thing I really desire is some type of circuit or setup where I could have like a what could be considered a good work light, some type of light that I could just sit somewhere, throws out a bunch of light, is compact enough for me to carry around in a tool bag maybe, or leave in like a garage or a shed or something like that, and it will continue to provide usable good light from a battery source. And in the past, I've made a lot of circuits like these. Like I had a few jewel ringers, different light inverters, but I've tended to ultimately go back to the same jewel thief style setup, simply with the 12 volt transformer that's got your three leads on your primary and your two on your secondary, and just make it like or wire it like a jewel thief, run it from 12 volts, uh, get your resistance right, try to find a good capacitor to put across your base, your trigger winding, and then just rectify your output, and you can charge batteries. And that's what I've done a lot. Um, it's like this other guy back there right now. I use that as a battery charger. Right now, it's actually running a fan because it's kind of hot in this house. Um, but this gives me good usable light, and right now I've got that hooked up to this little 12 volt battery here, and I'm gonna use that as a light reference from this circuit. So basically over here we're taking a 12 volt battery and we're running juice through an inverting circuit to try to see if we can light up this mains volt, which obviously is fed 120 volts, runs through this ballast, the CFL circuit. And I'm sorry, this is an LED, so it's not a CFL ballast, but it's actually just a LED driver circuit that basically bumps down that mains voltage and feeds these lower voltage LEDs. Some of them I believe are 10 volts, but a lot of them I believe are just 3 volt power LEDs, wired in different series. So the question is that really the way to go? Um, is it more efficient where you get your longer lasting light because you can use a cell like this, 12 volt? Is it, a lot of times people use car batteries. Those are beefy cells, they last a while. Would that make this practical? So you're using a 12 volt inverter, so to speak, to get your light, and you can have a large string of lights, but ultimately you're running through this large middleman. Um, or should you just go straight, keep it simple, straight to the source, go from your battery to your LED, and your LED is going to have a forward voltage very similar to your battery. So something like this, these 18650 cells, lithium cells, which can put out good current, and something like this LED, like this Cree XML2, which I've made a couple videos of, I really like. They seem to be the most efficient out so far. And this, we're talking about an LED, one single emitter that can produce um, 1,000 lumens, which is roughly the same lumens as a 100 watt bulb. And we've got this 10 watt, this 9 to 10 watt LED bulb here, which is, I suppose, a 60 watt equivalent. It's actually rated at 830 lumens. 830 lumens. So we're looking at roughly the same lumen output. So, like with this guy, I've got this guy wired. So, very simple. I have a low setting, just running through a thick resistor here and a variable resistor. So I can basically just control the brightness like that. Control the brightness. And that is a very bright light right there, which will last a decent amount of time on this battery. So we're talking about pretty good light here. Camera just totally zoomed in there. Anyway, it's really bright. The camera really has to compensate. And then we can go from that brightness to the full brightness, which is really pulling from that battery. But at the same time, it's really kicking out that light. It's ridiculous how much light that's kicking out. And you have this type of circuit, which doesn't quite put out the same amount of light, but it's more of a spread out light, I guess you could say. It's hard to explain, but that's also bright. But to decide which one of these would be the way to go, for me, that's a tough one. So we cut off. See, right now I have this other light here, bootleg light, and that light. Cut that off. Cut this off. So we're dealing with these two lights right now. And obviously that where they are in the room is not going to illuminate them. I've got one that was hanging from the ceiling and one over there which is pretty high up. So these are not quite sitting in the right position to illuminate this room. But they're spitting out the light. So let's do them one at a time here. So here's this guy on low. Just for an example, cut him down real low. Put that in a room. Put it up high. I could read to that. The camera doesn't really do it justice, but I can see totally fine. See totally fine with this light on. This little tiny light, a little tiny battery. Cut it all the way up. Now I'm definitely got very adequate light in here. Very adequate light. So cut that off. Let's use this guy now. Obviously, there's different qualities of light, different color, but obviously this is putting out very, very capable light. Also, very useful light. And when I cut it down to a very minimal draw, once again, still pretty useful. Right about now, can read totally fine, But then again, you have your color temperatures, which make a difference. But it's kind of hard to say which is the better route. But I'm personally leaning towards the LEDs. I mean, you could find it. Some people prefer that yellowish tint. You can find LEDs that are totally that tint. This right here is probably a cool white. Some people don't like that blue. It's more of a pure white than a blue. But it's definitely a question I've been wondering. And I seem to lean, like I say, lean more towards straight LED route. It seems like nowadays you don't even need to try to create some crazy circuit. You just use what they have off the shelf that seems to be the most efficient. And right now, I would say something like this right here. Throw a little resistance on there. You don't need to kick out the full 3 amps to drive the emitter all the way. It may be an amp at most. I'm thinking more like 300 to 400 milliamps. You're going to get very good usable light from one of those little cells right there. And I use this as a work light. If I got to be down in a crawl space or something, boom, throw it down in there. Um, but at the same time, if I needed a garage light or something like that, utility work light, I just feel like putting enough of these cells um, together to give me the same capacity as maybe this little sealed lead acid, it's going to end up being a better deal in the long run than something like this. But like I say, the reason I use this still obviously is because I can charge batteries and have a variable output there. But that's the name of that game, and it's still cool to get some usable light from it as well. So, like I say, it all depends on what you prefer.